All right, there you heard the president addressing the nation, flanked by some of his security staff, obviously, and saying that to the people of Iran, they want them to prosper. But most striking here, Shali, he came out before he even said good morning or anything. He said Iran will never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. That carried a lot of weight. Wendy Patrick, a terror expert here, your take on what the president said.
I thought it was incredibly telling that he started out like that. That was probably unexpected, given that's not normally the way he starts one of these speeches. I also thought the brevity of this speech was also notable. He just hit the high points, what he wanted to get across. He talked about Iran and what they're responsible for, and then he ended, and it was woven throughout, that his goal is peace. That was not lost on people watching all around the world. So it really was short and sweet to the point, and it's probably a lot shorter than it would have been if he had come out of the gate last night, and probably included a lot more facts that he decided were not necessary, paring it down for this morning.
In his speech, though, Wendy, if you noticed, he did say that more sanctions will be imposed on Iran. How do you encourage peace if yet you're going to impose most sanctions? And it should be noted that most of those sanctions hurt the people of Iran more than it does the government.
Yeah, you know, he just can't back down on some of that just diplomatically. And there is a way to do it. You know, sanctions are something that are imposed more often than we hear about. What are they going to look like? On who? I mean, there's lots of details that we would love to have to understand more of what his strategy is here. But the fact that there was no aggression that was mentioned in the speech was also notable, given when you compare what he said just now to what he said last week. There's been a serious de-escalation and dialing back of the rhetoric he was using.
He called out the UK, called out France, Germany, saying they should back out of the nuclear deal, and also calling on NATO. NATO has to get more involved in this. Do we take it from here, and then are those countries now going to address the president? A phone call is going to happen?
Phone calls are always happening behind the scenes. There's lots of communication occurring at different levels of government between our countries. And that's why, and I always say it's a good thing that cooler heads always prevail in a lot of these scenarios, because you do have to publicly save face, and you have to stand up, and you can't be bullied, and you have to make sure you have a citizenry that has confidence in their government. At the same time, what he said at the end of the speech is certainly characterizes everything that we want as well, which is peace, which is negotiation, bargaining, fairness. And fairness also explains why sanctions are necessary. That would be what he would explain if pressed, but it's probably not the kind of speech he gave just now that it would have been productive on any level to have taken questions.
You say he wants peace, but I want to go back to what Raul just mentioned. He didn't even say good morning before he said Iran. This will be the takeaway from what he said. Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. He's tweeted this before. Iran made the announcement just a few minutes ago that they're out. They're going to start their programs all back up again. How do we backtrack now?
Well, you'll notice that he also made lots of statements last week that weren't entirely commensurate with the actions that he takes. He has to be very firm and very strong, and that permeates every speech he ever gives on every subject. The fact that he came out with it, that he came out of the gate with such a strong statement, is indicative of his mindset moving forward. But that's not necessarily also, I would say, incompatible with wanting an eventual goal of peace. He has to be strong, but that doesn't also mean that peace isn't the ultimate goal.
I think asking England, France, Germany, NATO, everybody else to essentially get behind the U.S. in this plan. But again, those two things that we mentioned, you must abandon nuclear ambitions and you must stop terror activity. Those are two things Iran will not suddenly say, okay.
Well, remember, we had the same conversation with North Korea. I mean, there's no good middle point right now with this. I mean, you really have both sides having retreated to their corners, but not necessarily retreated from their philosophies or their intentions. And that, we heard that this morning, and the fact that he chose to start with it means he's not abandoning this anytime soon either. Nobody's rolling over yet, but that still doesn't mean that there isn't an eventual peaceful solution, hopefully, in the makings. The fact that he mentioned our allies is even more evidence that we have to do this as a team, at least according to...
Which is what everybody wants.
Everybody wants that.
A little bit of diplomacy is the way to go to solve all issues. Wendy Patrick, we thank you as always for your expertise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.